pilot licensing in Canada is administered by Transport Canada under the Aeronautics Act and the Canadian Aviation Regulations. Other than when flying a hang glider or paraglider, a person may only operate a Canadian-registered aircraft or act as a flight crew member in Canada with a license or permit issued by Transport Canada. At the end of 2008 there were 64,932 Canadian licenses and permits held, giving Canada the second-largest population of licensed pilots in the world. The first Canadian private pilot's license was issued to James Stanley Scott on January 24, 1920, and the first Canadian transport license was issued to Douglas G. Joy on April 1, 1939. Overview: A license is issued by Transport Canada in accordance with International Civil Aviation Organization license standards and recommended practices. A license can be used to fly domestically as well as internationally, while a permit does not comply with ICAO standards and therefore can only be used within Canada, unless accepted by another country. In April 1920 the first commercial pilot license in Canada was issued to Roland Groom. Pilots with licenses from foreign countries that are ICAO contracting states may apply to Transport Canada for a validation of their foreign license. This allows them to fly Canadian-registered aircraft in Canada. A foreign license may be used to fly an aircraft registered in the same state as the license while in Canada. The term license in Canada is equivalent to the term certificate in the United States. The term license is also used in the United Kingdom. Under the ICAO they are all legally equivalent. The most common type of Canadian license is the private pilot license C-Euro aeroplane, which is used to fly light, single-engine general aviation aircraft privately and recreationally. At the end of 2008 there were 27,138 aeroplane and 596 helicopter private pilot licenses in force in Canada. The rarest license or permit in Canada is the gyroplane pilot permit, with only 29 in force at the end of 2008. Ratings equals, every permit and license has one or more ratings. A rating is a Transport Canada endorsement that grants additional special privileges. For example, a night rating allows a pilot to fly at night. Each aircraft model requires different knowledge and skill to fly. For example, a single-engine general aviation aircraft's design and operation is fundamentally different from a gyroplane. Type ratings allow a pilot to fly a specific aircraft model. The CARs use the term type instead of model. Some aircraft are covered by a blanket type rating which is applicable to a grouping of aircraft types. For example, the aeroplane's blanket type rating covers all non-high-performance, single-engine aeroplanes that have a minimum flight crew requirement of one pilot. Examples of this type of aircraft are the Cessna 172 and the Piper Cherokee. These are considered similar enough that specific ratings are not required for each type. Other aircraft types are covered only by individual type ratings that apply to a single specific model of aircraft. For example, all helicopters are significantly different that each one requires an individual type rating. A person with a private pilot license C-Euro helicopter with a rating for the Bell 407 helicopter may fly only that type of helicopter. The specific privileges and requirements for each rating are detailed in the CARs. Other than aircraft type ratings there are ratings that allow instrument flying, night flying, VFR over-the-top, ultra-light passenger carrying and other pilot privileges. Permits and licenses. Student pilot permit equals, before receiving a permit a student pilot may only practice dual instruction with an instructor. With a permit, a student pilot may fly solo under the supervision of a flight instructor and for purposes of flight training only. Only domestic day flying under visual flight rules is allowed under this permit and no passengers may be carried. A student pilot permit is required for each aircraft category which a person is training for and is available for the following aircraft categories: aeroplane, balloon, glider, gyroplane, helicopter, ultralight aeroplane. In order to retain a student pilot permit, a student must sit and pass the PSTAR examination. Gyroplane pilot permit equals, the gyroplane pilot permit allows the holder to fly a gyroplane. Until endorsed with other ratings, Only domestic day flying under VFR is allowed under this permit. The gyroplane pilot permit is endorsed with a blanket type rating for all single-seat gyroplanes. There is no blanket type rating for two-seat gyroplanes, and a type rating is required for each specific model of two-seat gyroplane. Ultralight pilot permit equals. The ultralight pilot permit allows the holder to fly an ultralight aircraft in accordance with day VFR. A passenger may not be carried without a passenger carrying endorsement. The ultralight pilot permit is endorsed with a blanket type rating for all models of ultralight aeroplanes. Transport Canada defines two general categories of ultralight aeroplane. The operating and flight rules for basic ultralight aeroplanes does not allow any passenger carrying. The advanced ultralight aeroplane has stricter design requirements and includes passenger carrying if the pilot has an ultralight pilot permit endorsed with a passenger carrying a Euro ultralight aeroplane rating. Holders of this permit may also fly certified or home-built aeroplanes that meet the weight and stall speed requirements of an ultralight aeroplane. Aircraft other than aeroplanes also fall under the general classification of ultralight, in particular powered parachutes and powered paragliders. In such cases, the ultralight pilot permit is restricted to the type used by the student for training and qualification. Ultralight aeroplanes are often equipped with floats, amphibious floats, or designed as a seaplane. However, there is no seaplane rating for the ultralight pilot permit. Any ultralight pilot may operate on water within the regulations of the CARs and the capabilities of the ultralight aeroplane used. Recreational pilot permit. A Euro aeroplane equals. The recreational pilot permit. A Euro aeroplane is designed to make flying more affordable. It has fewer requirements with respect to training and affords more restrictive privileges compared to the private pilot license C Euro aeroplane. This permit allows a person to fly as pilot of an aeroplane. Either the landplane or seaplane aeroplane class rating is included, depending on which type of aeroplane is used in the training for this permit, and the appropriate rating is issued with a recreational pilot permit. A Euro aeroplane. This permit can be endorsed with either the seaplane or landplane class rating. Only domestic day flying in a single-engine, non-high-performance aeroplane under VFR is allowed. This permit is restricted to single-engine aeroplanes designed for a maximum of 4 people, but with only 1 passenger. A pilot with this permit may also act as pilot of an ultralight aeroplane. Recreational pilot permit. A Euro helicopter equals. The recreational pilot permit. A Euro helicopter was intended to make flying more accessible. It was to have fewer requirements with respect to training and would have afforded more restrictive privileges as compared to the private pilot license C Euro helicopter. Due to concerns within Transport Canada about the safety of a 25-hour permit to fly helicopters, the standards to establish this permit were never instituted, and the permit is therefore not currently available. Transport Canada has indicated a desire to rescind this permit from the CARs. Glider pilot license equals. The glider pilot license allows the holder to fly as pilot of a glider, under day VFR. The glider pilot license is endorsed, in the student's flight log, by a flight test examiner or flight instructor for the type of launch method used during training. The license is only valid for those methods of launch for which the glider pilot has been endorsed. Once a glider pilot has completed a minimum of 3 solo flights using a particular launch method, they may then carry passengers, but only for those launch methods for which they have been endorsed and have completed the 3 solo flights. Balloon pilot license equals. The balloon pilot license allows the holder to act as pilot co-pilot of a balloon. Only day flying under VFR is allowed, unless a night rating is added. The balloon pilot license is endorsed, in the student's flight log, by a flight test examiner or flight instructor for the type of inflation method used during training. Once a balloon pilot has completed a minimum of 3 solo takeoffs, accumulated a minimum of 50 hours flight time in untethered balloons and 300 hours total balloon flight time, his license may then be further endorsed for takeoffs in built-up areas. Private pilot license C Euro aeroplane equals. The private pilot license C Euro aeroplane allows the holder to fly as pilot or co-pilot of an aeroplane. This is the most commonly held license in Canada and is generally the first license earned by the aspiring professional pilot. Generally, the land-plane aeroplane class rating is included in the training for this license, and this rating is issued with the private pilot license C Euro aeroplane. Only day flying of a single-engine non-high-performance aeroplane in accordance with VFR is allowed, unless other ratings have been earned. A pilot with this license cannot work for hire or reward, although reimbursement for some costs is permitted. A pilot with this license may also act as a pilot of an ultralight aeroplane. The following ratings can be added: land plane rating, seaplane rating, multi-engine rating, multi-engine center line thrust rating, night rating, VFR over-the-top rating, instrument rating. Private pilot license C Euro helicopter equals. The private pilot license C Euro helicopter license allows the holder to fly as pilot or co-pilot of a helicopter. Only day flying under VFR is allowed until other ratings are added. There is no blanket type rating for helicopter aircraft types, and a type rating must be earned for each type of helicopter. A helicopter type rating for the specific helicopter used during training is issued with the private pilot license C Euro helicopter. A pilot with this license cannot work for hire, although reimbursement for some costs is permitted. The following endorsements can be added: individual type rating for each model of helicopter, night rating, VFR over-the-top rating, instrument rating. Commercial pilot license C Euro aeroplane equals. The commercial pilot license C Euro aeroplane license allows the holder to fly professionally as pilot of a single-pilot aeroplane, or as co-pilot on a multi-crew aeroplane. The commercial pilot license C Euro aeroplane includes more advanced piloting knowledge, skill and experience than the private pilot license C Euro aeroplane. A private pilot license C Euro aeroplane is a prerequisite to earning a commercial pilot license C Euro aeroplane. A commercial pilot license C Euro aeroplane is in turn a prerequisite to earning an airline transport pilot license C Euro aeroplane or any class of flight instructor a Euro aeroplane rating. The privileges of the ultralight pilot permit, private pilot license C Euro aeroplane, and VFR over-the-top rating and night flying are included in this license. The following endorsements can be added: land plane rating, seaplane rating, multi-engine rating, multi-engine center line thrust rating, instrument rating, second officer rating, flight instructor rating. Commercial pilot license C Euro helicopter equals. The commercial pilot license C Euro helicopter license allows the holder to fly professionally as pilot of a single-pilot helicopter or as co-pilot of a multi-crew helicopter. The commercial pilot license C Euro helicopter involves more advanced piloting knowledge, skill and experience than the private pilot license C Euro helicopter. A private pilot license C Euro helicopter is not a prerequisite to earning a commercial pilot license C Euro helicopter, however, the requirements for knowledge and experience are greater. A commercial pilot license C Euro helicopter is a prerequisite to earning an airline transport pilot license C Euro helicopter or any class of flight instructor a Euro helicopter rating. The privileges of the private pilot license C Euro helicopter are included in this license. The commercial pilot license C Euro helicopter is restricted to daylight unless endorsed for night flying. The CARs provide for a number of significant options for credit in terms of knowledge and experience for pilots with previous experience flying with other permits and licenses. The following endorsements can be added: night, instrument rating, flight instructor rating. Airline transport pilot license C Euro aeroplane equals. The airline transport pilot license C Euro aeroplane allows the holder to fly professionally as pilot or co-pilot of a single-pilot or multi-crew aeroplane. This license is required in order to be a professional airline captain. The airline transport pilot license C Euro aeroplane involves more advanced piloting knowledge, skill and experience than the commercial pilot license C Euro aeroplane. A commercial pilot license C Euro aeroplane multi-engine rating and a Group 1 instrument rating are prerequisites for the airline transport pilot license. See Euro aeroplane. The privileges of the ultralight pilot permit, private pilot license. See Euro aeroplane and commercial pilot license. See Euro aeroplane are included. The following endorsements can be added: second officer rating, flight instructor rating. Airline transport pilot license. See Euro helicopter equals. The airline transport pilot license. See Euro helicopter allows a pilot to fly professionally as pilot or co-pilot of single-pilot or multi-crew helicopters. The airline transport pilot license. See Euro helicopter involves more advanced piloting knowledge, skill and experience than the commercial pilot license. See Euro helicopter. A commercial pilot license. See Euro helicopter is a prerequisite to the airline transport pilot license. See Euro helicopter. The privileges of the private pilot license. See Euro helicopter and commercial pilot license. See Euro helicopter are included. The airline transport pilot license. See Euro helicopter is restricted to aerial work only if the night and instrument flight time requirements are not met. This means that the license is restricted to commercial flying that does not include air transport nor flight training. The following endorsement can be added: flight instructor rating. Flight engineer license equals. Some airliners are flown by a third crew member in addition to the pilot and co-pilot, a flight engineer. The flight engineer is responsible for monitoring aircraft systems in flight and for inspecting the aircraft before and after each flight. The Boeing 747-300 is an example of an airliner that employs a flight engineer. Recent airliners from manufacturers such as Boeing and Airbus are designed for a two-pilot crew with flight management functions. Previously, the responsibility of a flight engineer now handled by automation. Many older airliners flying require a flight engineer. The flight engineer license allows the holder to be an aeroplane flight engineer. Generally, this will be on a large transport aircraft. Being a pilot is not a prerequisite to earning a flight engineer license, though many flight engineers do hold a commercial pilot license. See Euro aeroplane or airline transport pilot license. There is no blanket aircraft type rating associated with a flight engineer license. The license must be endorsed with an individual type rating for each aeroplane type. When issued, the flight engineer rating for the aeroplane type used by a person for training is issued. The following endorsements can be added: flight engineer rating. Ratings. Aeroplane class ratings equals. Aeroplane class ratings are specific to fixed-wing aircraft. These include seaplane rating, land plane rating, multi-engine rating, multi-engine center line thrust rating. Aircraft type ratings equals. Aeroplane licenses may be endorsed with individual aircraft types or with blanket ratings for groups of aircraft, for instance all aeroplanes with a minimum flight crew requirement of one pilot excluding high performance. Other blanket type ratings available for the respective license or permit include gliders, balloons, ultralight aeroplanes, gyroplanes. Individual aircraft type ratings required for the respective license or permit include each aeroplane with a minimum flight crew requirement of at least 2 pilots, each aeroplane with a minimum flight crew requirement of at least 2 pilots utilizing a cruise relief pilot, each high-performance aeroplane type to be endorsed on a pilot license, aeroplane category, each aeroplane type to be endorsed on a flight engineer license, each aeroplane type to be endorsed on a second officer rating, each aeroplane type to be endorsed on a license for which no blanket type rating is issued, each type of helicopter, each type of power-driven balloon or airship, each type of gyroplane other than single-seat gyroplanes, restricted license, individual aircraft type ratings for certain medically restricted licenses. Night rating equals. The night rating allows a pilot to fly in VMC and navigate in visual reference to the ground, at night. This is different from instrument meteorological conditions where the pilot flies and maintains situational awareness strictly by using instruments and avionics. The night rating is available only for the following permits and licenses: gyroplane pilot permit, balloon pilot license, private pilot license. See Euro aeroplane, private pilot license. See Euro helicopter, For the commercial and airline pilot licenses, it is expected that the night rating will have already been earned. If not, a restricted license may be issued for day flying only. VFR over the top rating equals, the VFR over the top rating allows the holder to fly above and between cloud, without visual reference to the ground under visual flight rules during the daytime. Pilots are required to take off from an aerodrome in normal VMC and VFR and land at the destination aerodrome under VFR. The cruise flight in between may be flown under VFR OTT flight rules. This rating is an intermediate step between piloting privileges that allow only for VFR flying and an instrument rating. This rating is included in the privileges of an instrument rating, as well as the commercial license. The VFR OTT rating is available for the following licenses: Private Piloter Euro Aeroplane, Private Piloter Euro Helicopter, Commercial Piloter Euro Helicopter, Airline Transport Piloter Euro Helicopter. Instrument rating equals, the instrument rating allows a pilot to fly an instrument meteorological conditions, for example when cloud layers obscure the pilot's view of the ground. An instrument-rated pilot is able to fly and maintain situational awareness strictly by using instruments and avionics. This rating is one of the more complex ratings and is a major step toward earning more advanced licenses such as an airline transport pilot license C Euro aeroplane. It can be added to any aeroplane or helicopter license and is a requirement for the issue of an airline transport pilot license, aeroplanes. The rating may only be exercised for aircraft in the group endorsed. An instrument rating is often combined with other ratings to form a set of piloting privileges. For example, the multi-engine rating is required in addition to an instrument rating to fly a multi-engined aircraft under instrument flight rules. VFR over-the-top privileges are included in an instrument rating. The requirements for an instrument rating are the same for both a private pilot license C Euro aeroplane and a private pilot license C Euro helicopter. Helicopters certified for IFR operations are generally complex multi-crew and multi-engine aircraft, so a helicopter instrument rating is generally issued in conjunction with other ratings. Transport Canada issues distinct instrument ratings for each of the following four groups of aircraft types dependent upon the nature of the training for the instrument rating and the associated flight test. Group 1 for multi-engine aeroplanes, Group 2 for multi-engine center-line thrust aeroplanes, Group 3 for single-engine aeroplanes, Group 4 for helicopters. Second officer rating equals, the second officer rating can be added to the professional aeroplane licenses to allow the holder to act as second officer on a multi-crew aircraft. By itself the rating does not confer piloting privileges. The second officer rating is available only for the following licenses: Commercial Pilot License C Euro Aeroplane, Airline Transport Pilot License C Euro Aeroplane. Passenger Carrying a Euro Ultralight Aeroplane rating equals, Transport Canada defines two general types of ultralight aeroplane. Basic ultralight aeroplanes are not allowed to carry passengers, while advanced ultralight aeroplanes are allowed to carry one passenger, if the pilot has an ultralight pilot permit endorsed with this rating. The passenger carrying a Euro ultralight aeroplane rating applies only to the ultralight pilot permit. Pilots with a recreational pilot permit, a Euro aeroplane and higher aeroplane licenses are allowed to carry passengers in an aircraft that is authorized for passenger carrying. Aerobatic rating equals, there is no aerobatic rating for pilots to carry out aerobatics in Canada, although there are ratings for instructors to teach students aerobatics on aeroplanes and gliders. Flight instructor ratings equals. The following flight instructor ratings are available to be added to the applicable license or permit: Aeroplane Instructor Rating, Class 1, 2, 3 or 4, Aeroplane Aerobatic Instructor Rating, Class 1 or 2, Helicopter Instructor Rating, Class 1, 2, 3 or 4, Gyroplane Instructor Rating, Glider Instructor Rating, Glider Aerobatic Instructor Rating, Balloon Instructor Rating, Ultralight Aeroplane Instructor Rating. Foreign license conversion. As of December 1, 2006, Canadian pilots who hold certain pilot licenses are able to convert those licenses into FAA certificates with greater ease than in the past. Similarly, American pilots who hold certain pilot certificates are able to convert those certificates into Canadian licenses. See also, pilot licensing in the United Kingdom, pilot certification in the United States, pilot licensing and certification. References. External links: International Civil Aviation Organization, Canadian Aviation Regulations, Euro Personnel Licensing and Training, Transport Canada Personal Licensing FAQ, Transport Canada Civil Aviation,